What is this all about? So, despite equal or superior qualifications, women are often less likely to negotiate for higher salaries or promotions, perpetuating the gender pay gap and limiting career progression. The confidence gap explores the intersection between confidence and compensation, particularly how a lack of self assurance can contribute to the persistent gender pay gap. So, on the panel today, we have Aishwarya Valsala, Manager ROC Chennai Vesters, Dilshad Azim, Diversity Hub Manager, Grundfos Pumps India Private Limited, Vijeta Bansal, Senior Manager, Total Rewards Striker India, Yamini Koganti, AVP HRCNB, HRBP, DNI Champion Swiggy India, and the moderator for this panel is Rashmi Ravindran, AVP Online Diversity Solutions, Avtar Group. A little about the panelists. Aishwarya has 12 years of experience in industry and has worked in different sectors. She leads the global team in Chennai in the role of manager for department called ROC or Remote Operations Center. Dilshad is a seasoned professional with over 15 years of experience in human resources. Her approach to diversity and inclusion goes beyond mere compliance. It's about creating an environment where diverse perspectives are valued and leveraged. Vijeta is the Senior Manager Total Rewards at Striker India, where she is responsible for leading the function along with her dynamic team in providing data-driven strategies that enhance employee experience and overall engagement. Yamini, Yamini Koganti, AVP HR, believes in a symbiotic approach and a growth mindset. Her diverse experience spans startups and mature organizations, and that allows her to craft nuanced people strategies. And for the moderator, Rashmi Ravindran brings a wealth of expertise in marketing, communications, and user experience to the table. She has a specialization in content management, branding, and strategy. Over to you, Rashmi, for the panel.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much, Janani. Good afternoon, everyone, to this discussion on the confidence gap. It's my privilege to welcome our panelists for the day. Welcome, Aishwarya, Dilshad, Vijeta, and Yamini, and to our audience. Today, we are diving into a topic that has a huge impact on careers, especially for women, of course, the intersection of confidence and compensation. We've all heard about the gender pay gap, haven't we? But there's another gap that often flies under the radar, the confidence gap. It's that little voice that sometimes holds women back from negotiating for a raise or pushing for that promotion, even when we are equally or sometimes even more qualified than our male counterparts. We'll explore how this lack of self assurance plays a role in creating and perpetuating the pay gap. So much of this comes down to societal expectations and deeply ingrained norms, that old don't rock the boat or be polite advice that many of us have heard growing up, haven't we? This can really affect how women see themselves in the workplace and whether they feel empowered to ask for what they deserve. But it's not all sad and gloomy. Today's conversation is about uncovering actionable steps, what we women ourselves and male allies and as organizations we can do to help women confidently advocate for themselves. And it's not just about the more money, but also career progression, promotions, and leadership opportunities. We'll also touch on something that I think is really important, the fact that confidence is not something you just have or don't have, but something that can be built and nurtured and be supported by the environment around us. So let's start unpacking what the confidence gap looks like and how it connects to the broader issue of the gender pay gap. I'm excited to really listen from our fantastic panelists today. To the audience, meanwhile, please feel free to type in your questions in the chat window and we'll try and answer all of them towards the end of this session. I would like to start my question with Vijeta. Vijeta, hi.
Hi, Rashmi. Thank you.
Right. How does the confidence gap in women manifest in professional settings, especially when it comes to salary negotiations and career advancement? I'm sure you've seen some in your own, experience, all your experience these 15 plus years that you have worked. Vijeta, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Rashmi, for the question. Good afternoon, everyone. So, if I talk about organizations, I think globally there are workplaces that are progressing, but gender parity or gender gap continues to be a global issue, right? Looking at some of the statistics, uh, for every man who earns $1, every female earns around 86 cents. That's the gap we still have globally basis the recent updates. And talking particularly about salaried workforce in India, the gap is even wider. We are about 75 or 76% females in comparison to a rupee earned by man. So talking about all this in the workplaces, definitely some of the factors that continue to fuel this gap are what you rightly pointed out, right? There is a lack of confidence. There are these gender biases that play in all the time. Oh, I mean, and it could be both sides, right? The person who's getting interviewed as well as the person who's interviewing, or maybe within the organization as well in terms of male is to female, and then a lot of times it could be lack of information as well or limited information. So in general, I think men tend to sort of do the homework much more or have better access to this information, and hence they sort of end up negotiating more when it comes to these kind of conversations. And it is also the motherhood penalty a lot of times for women, right? The guilt factor in terms of, will I be able to? There is a gap on my resume. Does this suffice? Am I asking for too much? Am I not asking for too much? So those are essentially the factors that you will always see that play in when we talk about gender gap.
Yeah, sure it does, Vijeta. Thank you for that. In fact, elaborating on that context, you spoke about both the interviewer and the interviewee having biases, and the fact that the interviewer might be having a bias already, and to add to it, the woman who is the interviewee is already not so confident. So that's not adding up much, which probably is a result why we talk about 86 cents and 77 paise. So yes, definitely. Thank you for that. Over to Yamini.
Probably, sorry to interrupt, Rashmi.
Yeah, go ahead.
This
Yes,
this
yes.
is also a discussion we are looking into, like how organization can also help to build or reduce this gap. So just to give information, like in Vestas, we have something called a position pay range, which is an equal scale, which is used across the globe. This is general neutral, and it takes input mainly from the market. Nothing else is considered here, where it's a female or a male. So this kind of scales will definitely, having an uniform scale across globally will definitely help to bridge or reduce this gap. So just felt like sharing this. Yeah. Thank
Absolutely, Ashwina. Thank you for sharing that information. A great best practice, asbestos. So I'm sure that that sort of helps a lot of our audience also to understand how organizations can help bridge the gap. And just staying on that one concept that Vijeta also spoke about, which is to do with motherhood penalty, right? And we just had a huge, beautiful discussion before this about motherhood and maternity. But how does the confidence gap intersect with, already we assume that women do have that confidence gap, given the kind of upbringing they have, or the fact that, like Vijay also mentioned about, the fact that you're not prepared enough, or something is coming in the way. But to add to it, a maternity break is not helping things. So, Yamini, any inputs on, how does the confidence gap intersect with other barriers, like the motherhood penalty, or already, having these gaps? Yeah, sorry. Yes, go ahead, Yami.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Rishmi, for directing the question towards me. And you're right, the way you said, right, there are a lot of factors within the ecosystem, the way a girl is brought up, the way the society looks at a girl adds up to it. So I would, in this conversation, probably take three such intersections where probably women take a step back, and that leads up to therefore confidence gap and therefore pay parity gap. One thing is, for example, when a woman is taking some meaty big role, a meaningful role, I think there could be some murmur coming from, the groups within the organizations because of the biases telling, hey, you got it easy because you're a woman, or hey, you know what, because you're a woman, you don't need to take this most important job. You can take something a little easier on you. I think these do happen. And when these happen, somewhere I think women who are in those chairs and role, because of the brought up that they're perhaps sometimes even think, oh, maybe it's a very more important one. Maybe I'm not cut out for it. Let someone take it up. And invariably, there is enough research to say that a male colleague, for example, raises their hand for a job, even if they're 60% ready, while a female colleague who, doubts themselves to raise for a job, even if they're 100% ready, right? So that kicks in. And therefore, I would believe the way women should navigate it, because a part of this conversation is about what do we do about it, is to just raise the hand and take it and say, I'm up for this meaty role. And what's more important, and which I feel that we women miss doing, is networking with the right people within the organization. You raise the hand, you network, and make yourself visible within the organization. And when you do a good job, you make yourself visible. Don't shy away from asking for the paycheck that you deserve. I would say you should be open to looking out for your market rates in the industry, and go back and say when you deliver that I see the industry working like this, I'm placed in a particular way, how am I going to be pegged against it? I think that's an important conversation to have. And that's at some level debusting our own biases, that we need to ask for what we deserve. I think women are generally tuned to think that, hey, you will get when you do well. You just do well. I don't think that works. You need to communicate assertively, clearly on what works, what doesn't work. And in fact, in Swiggy, one of the metrics that we pick up is at every end of the performance cycle, we actually project how does the performance ratings happen between men and women? How are the increment ratings happening? How are the promotions happening? We just put it as a reflection and understand, hey, are we losing some good talent because of some of these unsaid, unnoticed biases, for example, right? Then I think the second stage where somewhat this again manifests to my mind is when marriage happens. I think while we think marriage is thanks to a lot of Bollywood movies, it's a very nicely romanticized thing from a marriage perspective. But for a working mom, I think there is a lot that changes at the home. Your role suddenly changed from being like that independent woman. Now you're sharing chores, you're creating space for a new person, etc. etc. A lot of things happening. A lot of change. And I think, again, some of the murmurs of biases that will be like, hey, why are you still working? You have a husband who's earning well. Hey, this is like your pocket money. Some of these comments do come your way, right? But I think that's when women, again, has to be clear of telling, hey, what's the role I'm going to play at home? And therefore, what is that going to be? And what is my aspiration at office? And therefore, what's that going to be? And keep eyes on the aspiration. And also set the tonality to herself, telling that, listen, I'm not going to get office to home. I'm not going to get home to office. What means in office, you may be in a position of power. Don't expect that to happen in your home. In home, you're a partnership. You need to partner with your spouse to make things happen. In office, you can delegate, work more effectively, get more things done. But you need to put these two out so that getting effective will become easy on you. Then the third one is what you were telling, right? Which is motherhood. I think the biggest gap happens because there at that stage, women physically also goes through a bunch of things to say that, hey, am I really going to do this? Is it worth it? My child is not having enough of me. There's a lot of mom will that plays on your head as well, right? You have to leave your child every day at home and go to office at 8 a.m. in the morning, and the child invariably cries for like at least 2 to 3 years of the age of the child till the time the child accepts that the mom can go out and I can be. It doesn't happen so often the way we like it. We don't like it for men. There is a biological connect that happens between a woman and a child. Now, in all of this, I think what also happens is because you're more attached to a new priority that happened in your life, the organization starts reading you differently. They may start thinking that, hey, maybe she's not going to take as many late evening calls. Hey, maybe she can't take as many meaty projects anymore. Maybe she can't stretch anymore. And then that is like a downward spiraling loop. Less projects, less recognition, less pay. It naturally happens because people are putting their hands up more, doing more, generally come in there. I think that is a place where a fair bit of self-awareness has to come in. The women may sometimes have to think that, okay, I'm going through a phase. What support systems can I get in place to tide over this? What help can I have to get through this? And the help is in your home, the help is in office also, in sensitizing both the parties on what your aspiration is and how do you want to navigate towards it. But one thing that I genuinely feel that women needs to know is being a mom and working are both full-time jobs. Being a mom is not like a part-time job. Therefore, you need to know that what you're prioritizing at the point of time. And if you want to be a full-time job working women, you need to take the right calls on not being a full-time mom and need to get invested in a support system like a nanny or a in-laws or your parents or extended family to get things or a play school, whatever that is right for you, whatever that is good for your ecosystem. You need to get into those ecosystems to get things going. Otherwise, between two full-time jobs, there is no way you would survive and be successful in your career. In fact, just linked with Swiggy, what we actually do is we sort of train employees who are going on a break. In the break, we have ERG groups and buddy programs to help people hold on to the maternity meaningfully and also to the organization. And after they come back, we also have back to transition call. And we actually create a gender neutral policy. So we don't have a maternity policy. We have a childcare policy that anyone who wants to take care for the child for 6 months, please go ahead and do it. So we don't ask questions. So it's a male colleague who might, we have examples of that nature also. A male colleague said, my wife wants to, let's say, pursue the career and I want to take the caregiver leave, and we've given it to them. The reason why we took that stance is because we thought that change has to happen in the organization. Male colleagues in the organization should feel, yes, I also can take a 6-month break if that is need for my family. The moment we're telling 3 months, 6 months, or a 12-week and 6 months, I think by nature, we're telling, oh, you don't need to take care as much of a child, as much.
Absolutely.
We sort of change that construct to ensure that there's a little bit more change happening within the organization, which will enable such managers to take care of their women colleagues when they become mothers, so on and so forth. So that's the wiring that I think women have to do, rewire at various stages to ensure the confidence gap doesn't kick in, according to me, Rashmi.
Thank you so much, Yamini. That was very, very well explained. And those 3 stages that you explained perfectly in sync with what really happens out there. One really good point that I, sort of focused on is the fact that women hardly go to a conversation or to an interview for that matter with data, right? We go with a mindset which is probably open to, yes, you are very well versed with what you have already done, but that extra bit that you do with, in terms of research to understand what the market is all about right now, what is the pay structure like for a similar job in a different company, and to go with that data, that probably is where the confidence is sleeping. It's missed because you're going there with sort of at the mercy of the interviewer or the other person who's talking to you, who is explaining things to you, and you're just taking it at that face value and sort of trying to take your options. I think that's a very good point, which we all have to understand and remember, because it's really practice. Not many schools teach that, nor do we get to practice that in our colleges, or where they tell you that you need to do your homework, you need to do your bit where you go and then negotiate for it. So I think that's a great point, that, and personally for me, a great takeaway, Yamini. Thanks for that. And we'll come back to some of the points that you also spoke about. Before that, I just want to also ask other questions before we get back to the generic questions. So to Aishwarya, please speak about mentorship and sponsorship, right? Allyship, mentorship, sponsorship when it comes to women. Do you think that, and how do you think that such a mentorship and sponsorship can actually close that confidence gap? And what are the best practices that any company should follow to ensure that such programs are successful?
Yeah. Thanks, Rashmi. So, yes, definitely, as you say, Rashmi, even this forum, we are naming it as confidence gap. No, so even if we are going to talk about the pay gap, ultimately we are connecting it to the fact that confidence is all that brings or give benefit to an individual when it comes to work environment. So mentorship or there be sponsorship, any of these programs will definitely help an individual to accelerate their career, will help to many times in cases where you have to take a new role, you're totally new to it, you have to change a certain behavior in you, you have to accelerate your career. It's a good thing to start with the mentor program. We do have a mentor-mentee program here in Vestas, where there are mentor templates, mentorship templates toolkits and different agreements they can enter into. This is like almost a 1-year program where the mentee actually can select the mentor whom they get inspired. Need not be like within the country where they are part of. They can choose someone from a global another part of the a company in another part of the country. And the main benefit is you get to know the experience, the expertise, and learnings from this person, which actually help you as an individual to take ownership of your own decisions going forward, rather than you entering into a new role, learning from mistakes. It's really good. You have these discussions on a regular basis, and being a mentee, it's really important. Now you are really open to take constructive feedback. And from a mentorship point of view, I will say whenever you are a mentor, the focus should be like, how do it's not like giving an answer to the person. It's more like enabling the person to grow and then make or do a self-coaching at the end of the program whenever we do enter into such a program. We also have a sponsorship program, as you're saying, for higher education like MBA or master degrees. There are also different learning portals within our organizations, which also have like audiobooks, ebooks on different varieties of topic. There are also gamified learning programs, which as per your availability, you can go learn, upskill. I'm talking this on a fact that these programs enable you to improve your confidence. There are also soft skill trainings, which are provided to individual. And also, as a person who are entering into these programs, it's really important how you accelerate yourself with the help of these informations whichever you have. The evaluation should be like, there should be targets, there should be evaluation. It should not be like you get everything for free. Every organization should also ensure that there is a performance check that is happening at the end of these evaluations, or post which how this individual is able to use it in their new job or role. So these kind of programs will definitely help. And I also see, other than this mentorship or sponsorship program, it's also important what is the environment each of these organizations bring to the people. So it's more about how is the diversity and inclusivity that's being provided here. So we also have, in recent June, we also celebrated this Pride Month, where we also honor the LGBTQ community as well. So it's more the acceptance that you get in your organization, which helps you to build your confidence, along with these programs, which will also enable you to upskill yourself. So yeah, that's my thought.
Thank you so much for that. So you're talking about not just having programs in place, so many that you just mentioned that happens in investors, but also measuring, make sure that the programs are also working, right? And that's very important. And I think one of the measures will be, it'll be interesting to know what kind of measures, apart from, the fact that these programs happen, how do you then measure the confidence boost that has happened, or in what ways does it reflect in the work? It'll be interesting to actually have a discussion on that also.
Yeah, these programs will be mostly like experiential learnings, Rashmi. Like, you have a target, you have a problem, how you find a solution. That's why I was saying it's more not to give everything as you want, like spoon feeding. How you enable this person to identify, activate your own ownership, take the decisions going forward, so that it stays for a longer period of time. So that's in short.
That's interesting. But over to Dilshad, I just want probably us to stay on that concept of how can companies measure and address the confidence gap. So what are the metrics that typically needs to be used? It's not as evident or easy to measure, right? Something like confidence in a person, especially when there is a certain innate sense of lack of confidence that we see in women, and that's the assumption that we are going into this conversation with, right? So from that angle, what metrics actually work, Dilshad, to you?
Thank you, Rashmi. I think we have been having great discussion around each of it sharing their views. And yeah, I think it is something similar to what everyone is told about it. I think each organization has a different way of giving out it to be policies or how we can empower the women as such in the organization. And especially being in India, working in a global environment, it gives a different perspective to altogether. We always think that the Western, whatever adoption of policy happens, we can also do it here in India. But there are some challenges when we look into, deep dive into, and see how we can get that, or maybe we need to tweet a little bit or localize it and see how we can get that in there. I think the first foremost thing, I think we have all been talking about the organizational perspective on how organization is enabling, how organization is helping and supporting our own employees to grow, to make them capable enough to do things right. First thing for the women, I think we should have that self confidence in ourselves. I'm sure Yamini has also told that the three stages, and the earlier session also I was part of it, where they were telling that yes, you cannot plan certain things. Like, for example, you plan for a normal routine work. I have 10 things to be done at office today. But the moment I step into the office, it changes completely. I have some other prayer. So I need to keep prioritizing, reprioritizing, changing, and doing things. The similar way happens to the life also, especially for the women. You think that this has to go this way. I need to study this. I need to go for this role. Maybe in 10 years, 5 years, I will have to reach this particular level, but it doesn't work it out because we have other priorities which just here ad hoc comes in and you need to just rework on it and do it. It is just that two three things which I would like to tell the young people who are here, that just go with the flow of it. Second one is be calm enough to do the research on what you want to do. If, for example, if you're taking up some role where you want to go and attend, just work on those things, get more information about it so that you can go confidently and talk about your paychecks and other things which has already been discussed. And the second one is, I'm sure everyone would fail, right? I think that is one major thing which I wanted to bring it in this forum is there is always a misconception about this failing part of it. When you fail, there is always a saying that okay, which means you cannot do anything or you have done something wrong. No one encourages it. But if you see the same culture in Western countries, they always encourage to do, be it in whatever level or whatever experience you have. If you fail, they appreciate you. They tell you that okay, you have done this, which is good. I think the same thing will go out to the younger generation, people who are studying in the schools or colleges. Try it out, fail it out, and see which works for you and which doesn't work for you. And then maybe you will be able to figure it out a lot of things, explore a lot of things, and of course experience also will be there for you when you try different multiple things. Don't just leave it off, it doesn't working out. If you really have passion towards it, you have to go for it. And coming back to your question, Rashmi, metrics, has Aishwarya also said that there are few things which we have to do it on the experiment, because confidence level checking is something which is really crucial, and we don't have a designed system for it as such. So what are the two three things which we do in Ground Force is, of course, we are also doing some leadership programs for the women in the higher level bands. And of course we also talk to the other manager, mid manager levels employees to see how their confidence level is. We have a focused group approach where we conduct regular meetings with them to see, to get their idea about the topics. We discuss on certain topics. It can be business related or on their passion or the aspiration related things, to understand what they want to pursue and see how we can enable and support them. And the feedback, what we do is we create a feedback mechanism, a 360 feedback kind of a thing, which we collect from their superiors, their peers, their managers, skip level managers, to understand how her work performance is. For example, if in case we have given some program opportunity for that person to take it up, how they are doing the post and pre-program training sessions as such. That shows the confidence level. Like, okay, maybe one task which she was not okay to do before the training, and now she's at least taking that 1% of effort. We really appreciate that. We And also the second thing is that we also encourage all our women employees in Ground Force to be part of the network group. I think Vijita was telling about the networking part of it, right? So networking is something is very important for women at any point in time. I think we cut connections the moment we are married, and then we are busy with our own work, as such work, balancing work life and all those things. But the networking is very, very important. So I think we have created that strong group in Grundfos where we have this CII, we are part of it. We encourage all our women participants to be part of such events, to see inspiring leaders on various events which is happening through them with various other groups also, so that at least that sense of seeing them and inspiring them make them help achieve things as such. I think we also sometimes we cannot be strong all the time, right? We also tend to
Absolutely.
lose our tie down, and we also say, oh my god, are we really able to do this, or do we need some time? And yes, we do need some break for ourselves. I think those sessions help us to trigger that again, stating that it's okay, time is up. I think it's your time to show, it's show time for us. I think that is also one of the a major boost, I would say, this year, which has kept our women employees engaged. And we could see a lot of women employees participating, or rather asking us that when are we going to have these kind of sessions as such. So that is also one way of testing, or as you say, a metric to gauge their confidence and how they perform in their meetings, especially in the team meetings. Because if you see most of them in the team meetings, they just type in the chat, being it a virtual, telling what they want to say, but no one would open their cameras and speak to them. They say it's known one theriyum, why we have to do it. So I think that these kind of regular awareness triggering them will help them to showcase themselves. And of course, I think it's more about personal branding nowadays. You should know where you'll have to project yourself, and that would come only when you give that little push to all the women employees in the organization that it's okay, you can do it. If you don't do it, let's try it next time. I think that small pat on the back is required for everyone, right? So yeah,
So,
that's it
so
pretty much about
thank you,
this
sister.
Rashmi.
Thank you. Very interesting points. I'm noticing how, even as you were explaining, how the metrics actually, the heavy measuring, methods are not working when it comes to something as soft as confidence. When I say soft, I mean a soft skill, right? Something
Yeah.
that is not so easy to measure. So it's
Mm.
interesting how, and maybe we all know as women in the workplace, we have seen around us how in the past there were hardly any women in the workplace, and then slowly we have more. And when you have more people, and we spoke about role models in the previous session also, when you have these role models, when you have examples around you, and when you have the same kind of people around you, and that by that I mean more women around you, you sort of also take in that confidence. You automatically, I think, the confidence is built. And I think one of the things organizations can definitely do is to encourage, more women at every stage, and not just at the early career stages, but to not just pick and choose one or two to fill in the diversity criteria, or to just take care of that diversity number, but to really see how to get more people in, get more women in, so that there is that give and take, and there is that vibe exchange, if I may say that in the Gen Z term, so that there is more confidence that naturally emerges in the group. And I have a very interesting question that I saw in the Q&A, and Divya Kumar has asked about how women find it difficult to say no. I think we all have been through this many times in many contexts, but in the context of how that then affects your confidence, not just because you are not able to say no, but after not being able to say no, what happens to you? And then it just keeps perpetuating, right? And as a result, they often end up shouldering more responsibilities. And then you're up against a measure of performance, which is not even fair to begin with. You weren't even responsible for so much to start with, and now you have multiple more things to sort of show up for. So over to anybody who wants to start on that question about how women find it hard to say no, and then you bear the brunt of having said yes and taken up more responsibilities. Yamini or Vijeta or anybody who wants to take that question.
Oh,
So maybe I'll go.
Sure, yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Rashmi. I think a lot of times it's not about just saying no. A lot of times it's also about not saying anything, right? Which probably can be uh,
Misconstrued as no.
misconstrued as no
As
only, right?
yes.
So I think as
Misconstrued as
females,
yes.
it's important for us to understand whether we want to say a yes or a no, and just not stay quiet, because in a lot many forums probably we feel okay, and that's how we've sort of evolved the world around us. Maybe at homes, in offices, we thought of feel that it's not the right battle to pick, or maybe it's not the appropriate forum to speak up. But I think as we are evolving and we're talking about this very important topic, it is important for women especially to either say yes or no, depending upon what that task is, what that responsibility is, whether they would want to or not. Because lack of a response definitely means something additional coming your way, or something taken away from you in the
That's
long
a
run, right?
brilliant
And
point,
uh,
Vijeta.
which is what we sort of, in the long run would add up to these gaps that we are talking about, either from a salary negotiation
Yes,
standpoint or even
absolutely.
from new roles. So while there are measures like, just to quote Stryker's example, there are measures in terms of leveraging all pillars, be it ensuring diversity at all levels, if not how to bridge the gap through new hires or through development interventions, or maybe facilitating it through ERGs, or maybe a regular check-in on the ranges, the point that Ashwarya said, right? While there are global ranges equal for all bands in terms of male, female, but I think it's a cadence that we built in to review it annually or biannually to see if females are constantly dropping, and then also reviewing our annual appraisal numbers. What has been the overall increment to male versus females? So, yeah, eventually, if we have to sort of be there, we have to come up with an answer, and a strong answer which we feel is going to be appropriate for us.
Thank you, thank you. That's really nice to know that more organizations are looking into this concept and this problem. And I know we are running out of time here, very, very fast. So just a last one line, probably from everybody, the customary last one line that you want to talk about this. Maybe I want to combine a few questions and ask, what would be your advice or your take on what young women or upcoming professionals, women professionals should do early on so that they don't get into this whole pit of having said having had that confidence go and then go down from there on. So what is that one thing they should do early on, maybe as mothers and fathers and parents, also what we can do for our daughters and also as young women professionals starting out? So Aishwarya, I'll start with you. What would you say to the young women professionals?
Yes, Rashmi. So I would say everyone should have an open mindset to have a growth mindset. You should also be willing to learn, take new challenges, embrace challenges. That's what I'll definitely say. See challenges as an opportunity, because today when you come to the work environment or a workspace, so there will, even if you have all the facilities, sometimes you have to face certain realities where you may not be able to accelerate as much as you expect to be. So losing is not something like no, you should demotivate yourself. Keep up that confidence, have that inner strength, believe in yourself, and keep working. Take small step always to increase your potential so that you prove what you are, and then at least one day or the other you will definitely come up to where you want to be. Believe in
That's
yourself.
an awesome note. How to bring the inner, the confidence from within and not seek it from outside. That's awesome. Dilshad, to you, one line.
Yes, thank you, Rashmi. I think most of it has been told by Aishwarya. So just two,
Or
three
maybe
things
something for
which I
the
told.
advice to
Yeah.
the mother or the parent, maybe.
Yes, I think today's generation, I would say that they are very smart. It is just that we need to see how we can train them, because our generation back was really different, with a lot of restrictions of not there, don't go there after 6 o'clock, you have to be back home, work, all those things. But now the generation is not like that. It is more about telling them the reason why they are not supposed to do. I think that why has to be clearly communicated to the children, or maybe to the teens, or whoever is in the college has such. Understand why the elders are telling it to you. I think that clear communication between the parents or the mothers also should not be very taunting, like just be behind the kids or so. Just tell and communicate, set a boundaries. I think from younger generation, when the kids are very young, you have to tell them about this gender thing, whichever we have been facing till now. I'm not sure how many years it's going to take, but at least give a open mindset kind of a thing, that it is nothing like men only can do this or women only can do this. It is more about anyone can do if you have the capability. I think that is more important, which we need to preach. And I'm sure all these schools and other things, and the colleges are also focusing on that, so that when they get there, we will have a similar kind of a gender neutral kind of a thing. So that's it. Just
Thank
see
you.
that
Thank you.
you be open to
Thank you.
everything. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
Dilshanti. Oh, Yamini, if you can sum it up.
Hey, sure. Thank you. One small thing that I wanted to say to everyone out there is that every time you feel that you didn't do your best, or every time you feel you have not got an opportunity, or every time you feel that you haven't been given the opportunity deserved, I just want all of us to just look, did we stop ourselves from doing any of that to ourselves? Which is your limiting belief playing it on yourself, right? For example, you haven't asked for it as vocally. Someone was telling in the group that, when you say no, it is not talking, it's about saying no. So have you vocalized it enough to say you want it? Have you stopped yourself thinking that, oh, I will get it when I get? Or have you stopped yourself from saying that, hey, I'm equally capable, have you considered me? If you think something not okay happened in your reviews or in your performance, have you raised your voice and say, hey, why did it change for me? Why did the bar change for me? How can you do it better? So my only request to everyone out there, which perhaps is my own learning also, is if you feel something right did not happen, think once, did you ask for it enough? One. And if you didn't ask for it, what stopped you from asking, and change that. Once you start changing that, I think things around it will start changing and put you on the.
Thank you, Yamini. That's very useful. Vijeta, one last one from you and close the session.
Sure. So maybe I'll give it two folds. For the parents, just instill that confidence, be gender neutral and provide equal opportunities. To the kids, or maybe to the generation who's out there already, have that confidence in you. Don't take failure for a no. So every failure will turn out into a success someday. So just keep going and don't give up.
Thank you. That's incredible. And thank you so much for sharing your insights on this very important conversation. I'm sure we have just started the conversation, and there's so much more to, go, a very long way to go before we achieve that great equality, equity. And let's keep this momentum going, one confidence step at a time. So thank you so much. Over to you, Jen.